This video will be a tour of my 2022 to 2023 sketchbook. A large component of it is admittedly from 2022, so there will be a lot of older work in here. However, I assure there is some newer pieces in here as well. I am primarily a character illustrator, so there will be a lot of character illustrations in here. I think there is some abstract work as well, though the main focuses are on my original characters, Shakespeare character designs, and MLP characters. There is also a plethora of other fandoms in here as well. Either way, as always, enjoy. First page we have some sort of miscellaneous sort of sketches. This one was from a lecture. Me and my friend got bored, so we started drawing pictures of eyes. This one's really interesting. The lyric is "Now my life is sweet like cinnamon," which is a quote from Lana Del Rey's Radio. This piece was originally intended to be a drawing for an October prompt challenge, but I didn't really like the way it was turning out, so I improvised, changed it up a bit with this sort of abstract disintegrating effect with the line work. I was also most likely listening to the song Radio by Lana Del Rey, hence the reference to the lyrics. Character depicted here is quite clearly Lady Marianne, my persona, and this one is from October 2023, whereas this one is most likely February 2022. And at the actual start of the sketchbook, we have a quite roughly sketched anatomy Isabella Madrigal from Encanto. The bigger focus on here was more so the fabric and all the lovely detail. Next up, we have a running theme of sort of cross-hatching biro pen outlines with coloured pencil colouring. And here is my OC Crimson. This was on her character birthday, which is January 21st. And some OC lore trivia. Crimson actually does have the elongated ear malfunction, just like her sister Marianne, though hers is less noticeable, and she also hides them with her hair. Adjacent is her sorceress friend Lane Lacuna, who is another one of my OCs, with her apprentice Rogue. Lainey was designed in 2020, but this was when I redesigned her. I think when I first redesigned her in 2022. This is Lady Cassiopeia, who is the wife of Lord Macduff, and this is my character design for her. Speaking of, here is Lord Macduff himself and Jen, aka Lady Macbeth, and this technique is called ink and wash, so it's just pen, sort of washable, bleedable pen with water. It did bleed past the lines, unlike my intention, but it does leave this nice watery, abstract lyric video effect. This piece was inspired by the song Another Love, originally inspired by an Instagram reel trend featuring said song. I feel like that song is also very fitting for Jen and Alex's relationship. Speaking of Lord Alexander Macduff, we have the grief cycle illustrated with his character. Again, inspired by a trending sound on Instagram reels at the time. We have all of the 5 stages of grief here, and this was a black and white ink and wash effect again. I think denial and depression were my favourite pieces, as I really like how all of the different colours inside the black ink have sort of bled out. Into our next era, we have really watered down acrylic paint. This piece is based off the song, is it Look After You by The Fray? It's inspired by that song, but I think the quote is, I want to say it's from Of Mice and Men, but I don't think it is. I think it's just associated with Of Mice and Men, or if it is from Of Mice and Men, let me know. I think I used the incorrect shade of brown for Jen's hair though. It's supposed to be like a really dark red. I refer to it as black cherry, but for some reason it's brown in this piece. But I think pink works really well for Macduff's cape. That's adorable, I love that. Next piece, we have a very distinguishable bisexual flag in the sky for a galaxy. Though technically I did use the incorrect hair colour again, the character should be recognisable as Jen, who herself is bisexual. This is another Macbeth character design. This character is Menteith, who I interpret as very sort of artistic, creative, positive, a little bit energetic. Again, I've returned to this sort of biro pen cross-hatching style, and I really like how the shading and highlights on their hair turned out. And adjacent is Chloe, who is proof that I can draw more than the 3/4 angle. She is another Macbeth character design. Originally in 2021 I was debating if her name should be Cleo or Chloe, but I eventually went with Chloe. And in the original play she is Lady Macbeth's gentlewoman. Next up we have some character studies, and you should probably recognise this character as Marina from The Pebble and the Penguin. This is a humanised Marina carrying a pansexual flag. I'm convinced that whole movie is just an allegory for multisexual spectrum identities. Huh? Another recognisable character, this is Girlfriend from Friday Night Funkin'. I don't play it, but I really like her design. And this piece was actually when I ran out of rubbers, so I was using like water and different techniques to try and erase my mistakes. You can sort of see where the paper sort of didn't abide. Coming into our next chapter of the sketchbook, we have some really watered down acrylic paint pieces, which are very abstract in style. So first off, there's a whole collection of them and they need to be shown all together to make sense. So we have Jen with the lyric Love, Macduff with the lyric Brain, Camille with the lyric of Heart, Don with the lyric Caffeinate, they're not in order, but Malcolm with the lyric Melatonin, and Macbeth with the lyric Control. Obviously each of these lyrics are very fitting to each character due to representing one of their traits. A lot of them are certainly interchangeable though. I think my favourite pieces is Malcolm and Macbeth's pieces. I love how abstract and fluid they turned out. And if you couldn't recognise the words, they are inspired from Jack Stauber's song Choice. Here is another piece of Jen, more so a focus on ancient Greek inspired drapery. I think I did digitalise this piece, or at least a very similar sister illustration. Here is a character design sheet for Bellatrix. I'm still fleshing their biographical info out a little bit. Sort of one of those moments where you have an idea for a character design, highlight on design, so you just sort of illustrate it down. This was experimenting with this sort of dramatic ink pencil illustration style. I think this one turned out the best with the blended shading rather than the hatching, which did sort of bleed and blend itself anyway. This one was most likely acrylic paint. This one was acrylic paint. This one might have been drawing ink, and these ones were Sharpie, I think. Characters left to right are Marianne, Jen, and Mr. K's OC. Recording this segment at a later time as I had accidentally missed this double page spread in my original recording session. But here we have Peppa Madrigal from Encanto. I think this one is very strong in terms of anatomy as it is quite heavily referenced, whereas some of my previous pieces are more sort of, the skeletons are sort of improvised quite quickly. And I really like how she turned out. I love drawing the folds and shapes of her attire. Next up is a humanised version of the Asterite from the game Echo the Dolphin. The original Asterite actually looks like this, just sort of floating orbs, and the Asterite is basically the oldest and wisest being in the ocean. Here are some very recognisable characters. It is Clara and William Afton. It's sort of my original designs for them, though they do follow the conventional interpretations of their designs. And I gave Clara a UK flag because the amount of Afton fan works I've seen depicting them celebrating Thanksgiving and all of these 4th of July guys, canonically they are English. So just to remind everyone, here's a little warm-up experimental sort of drawing. Here is Jen again, and I've highlighted the red in her hair this time. And we also have a humanised version of Marina from The Pebble and the Penguin. What do these two have in common? I don't know. They both have green eyes and they're sometimes associated with pink flowers. They wear pink flowers. Obviously not all the time with Jen, but she's associated with cherry blossom. Another watercolour piece here. This is Dolores from Encanto, and adjacent is a felt tip pen drawing of Discord from MLP. I think this was my first time drawing Discord and I really like how he turned out. More studies of Discord. This turned out quite static, so I'm interpreting it as stoned Discord, and some more stylised illustrations of Discord. And adjacent, obviously if I'm going to draw Discord, I have to draw his wife, Fluttershy. Fluttercord is one of my OTPs. Okay, I'm kind of leaning more towards Swanbrush High at the moment, but Fluttercord will forever be my favourite canon ship. Adorable. More character studies. This is Spike from MLP, and as you can see, this one was sort of magnified on this page, again in watercolour. This was sort of an attempt to bring back the fluid style used for the choice meme. Didn't work as effectively as it did in the choice meme, but sort of does create a really dramatic interpretation of King Malcolm. This is ideally set in Act 5 when he gets his crown back after Macbeth's death. This piece is quite prominent as it is inspired by a painting of Miranda from The Tempest by, I think it's John William Waterhouse, and this piece was also drawn on a live stream for my YouTube anniversary in 2022. Really like how this one turned out, particularly the physics of the hair and the bleeding of the paint in this area of the background. I was also in my abstract seascape phase in sort of mid-2022 with like the sort of stark bleeding of blues and black grey tones, accompanied with certain lines and shapes for cliffs. Here we are, next up, another watercolour piece. This is Zuma from Paw Patrol. My younger family members were going through their Paw Patrol phase at the time. I love Zuma. Zuma's so cute. Next up, we have another watercolour piece. This is Jen and Macduff again. This was sort of a newer draft of the Another Love Instagram reel trend. Also, this does just follow my natural fluid method of drawing, but I really like how her hair blends with his cape. So smart. Here are my 2022 October prompt drawings. Rather than following a specific line of prompts, I generated 5 of my own, one for each week in October. First one was integrated, so I went with sort of physical integration. This is set round about when Macbeth comes back from the battle with Norway. Obviously he's depicted as Angel. I don't know if you can see the devil horns there with Jen. Obviously this links to the more prominent side of their morality at that point in the play. I did have some accidents in this area with the pencil lines, but I think it turned out fine elsewhere. Next prompt was patent. I obviously went with the definition of patent leather. So when I was younger, I had patent leather school shoes. So I used black nail polish to get the sort of shiny effect there. And this is sort of my 5-year-old self with the shiny school shoes. The reason she has no facial features is as I thought it looked, first and foremost, looked more effective without them, and also to allow the focus to be on shoes. Next up is Aid. This is Camille from TGIF. She's actually a nurse, so I went with a sort of medical theme with this drawing of her. I used the stark black background I trialled earlier, and I really like how the detail in her first aid kit turned out. This next one is by far the most effective, as I wasn't so harsh with the pencil lines. This is Hamlet to represent Prince. Obviously he is holding the prominent skull, lots of sort of death foreshadowing with the imagery of the blackened eyes, as well as this sort of blended acrylic paint background. I was going for like a night sky, but I really like how stark and gothic it turned out. Week 5 trials the same background style, but it didn't turn out as effective. The prompt was advocate, and this was sort of a piece advocating for solving ocean pollution. So it is Marianne as a mermaid. My theme for Halloween 2022, I went with mermaids. And here you can see evidence of conventional ocean pollution and how it is affecting mermaids. Not just mermaids, but sea life in general. This page is one of my favourites. In the Friendship is Tragic cast server, we were designing our pony sonas as Diomedes horses. So here is my pony sona Anaphora as a Diomedes pony. It's got two trials here, one of them looking more innocent and another very, very, very horrific. These pieces were coloured pencil with biro outlines, and I think they worked out really well, especially with the colours. In a similar style, we have a piece for Asexual Awareness Week. I am asexual, so here is my persona with the asexual flag. Another seasonal piece, this one was for Bonfire Night 2022. This one was mixed media, coloured pencil and acrylic paint, also some sort of gel pen for the fireworks with acrylic paint for the night sky and the smoke blending with the sky. Characters are Chloe and Jen, sort of sitting on the beach watching the fireworks, and down here the lyric is, do you know a song by Surf Stevens where it's like, what did you learn from the Tillamook Burn in the 4th of July? Nothing, because I'm English. So this is an English version. Instead of the Tillamook Burn, it's the Great Fire of London. Instead of the 4th of July, it's the 5th of November. We don't have an Independence Day for obvious reasons, but I think the closest we'd have to one would be the 5th of November. Not technically independence, but we have fireworks and bonfires and celebrations of our country. So I guess it's the closest. There's another Bonfire Night piece. This character is the character I voice in Friendship is Tragic. She is a Trottingham horse, so obviously she is English, so it would be fitting to illustrate her in the context of a culturally British celebration. So she is depicted holding a sparkler. I don't technically have the correct acrylic paint colours for this character, as my white acrylic paint had ran out at the time, hence why I was using white gel pen. But I think the darkened colours and darkened tones do work really well with a sort of nighttime effect. And adjacent we have a Remembrance Day piece, which is on the 11th of November, sort of going for a poppy shape with silhouettes of memorials and blooming poppies and grass with an aeroplane. Probably my first time drawing an aeroplane in a while. Here is another commemorative piece for Remembrance Day, this time a lot more abstract and fluid. I really like how this has turned out with the poppies. This was watered down acrylic paint, almost a watercolour effect. Adjacent, I think this might have been watercolour and acrylic paint, or one or the other. This was a commemorative / celebratory piece for the finale anniversary of the show Merlin, which is the anniversary of the finale is the 24th of December. So this is sort of like an illustration of the screen cap from the final episode where I think Arthur's getting lowered into the boat to, oh dear, let's try and remember the name of the island, Avalon. Next up is a sort of concept sketch of Camille, and fun fact, I envision that she dreams to be a musketeer, or at least the medieval equivalent of a musketeer. Still working that out. This one's really interesting. A very sort of fluid, abstract sketch, no different from my regular drawing style, but a little bit exaggerated. This is the character Ross from TGIF, and here is Jen. The premise and idea I was going for is basically Ross is over at Jen's castle, and obviously Ross isn't very fond of Jen. The only side to Jen he really tends to see is the side of Jen that argues with him. So when he sees her upset, he's very confused. Just sort of character ideas, concepts and development here, nothing too deep. Next up, another piece for the Merlin anniversary in 2022. That was a special anniversary as it marked 10 years since the finale. This character is Queen Guinevere, and underneath we have Ellen from I Have No Mouth and I Must Scream. This one was biro pen, and this one was fine liner pen. This technique is achieved by drawing your sketch in candle wax and then going over it with coffee or tea, and then what should happen is the coffee should not set on top of the wax, leaving a nice drawing with the wax. It didn't work out entirely, but I did use the wax as a basis for the highlights. And if you recognise the composition, it is vaguely referenced from that one TGIF screen cap. Here we have some more. This is Macbeth and no, not Macbeth. Macbeth was in the previous one. This one is Macduff. How different do they look when they're in black and white? They're supposed to be different. Macduff's hair is a lot fluffier. And here is a little Nautilus shell. I was drawing a lot of those back in February. Here we have 4 of the characters from Bluey. I love Bluey. I think I started watching a bit more of it last year. So we have Bluey, Bingo, Muffin and Socks, and these were all watercolour with fine liner pen. There was a TikTok video focusing on children's book titles then versus now, and the children's book titles back then were as follows: The Llama and the Frog, The Hare in the Lavender Field, and Mr. Timmins' Tiny Kittens. I have 2 trials there, one of them with tiny kittens and another one with even tinier kittens. I think The Hare in the Lavender Field is my favourite though. Really beautiful imagery, and I love how the lavender turned out. And before anyone asks me to do the other 3 titles, no, I'm not that kind of illustrator. Coming into more recent art, this piece is from July. This was another live stream for my YouTube anniversary on the 13th of July. Another watercolour piece depicting Marzi and Jen. They are eating shortbread together, and it's sort of based off, I know this is really bad, but an interaction of me and Jen on character.ai. We were sharing shortbread together next to the river. I can't remember which river it was. I think it changed every sentence. Might have been the River Thames, I don't know. Colours did go a bit off, but I think in some of the photos I took, they turned out really nice. Here's another drawing, sort of similar. Marzi and Jen just sort of chilling. Wasn't really too fond of how the line work turned out, so I decided to just leave it as is. We don't really have a lot of non-coloured images in here. And coming into October 2023, we have my October prompt drawings. This is from a set of prompts called Cringetober, so I can't go through all of the prompts as there's just far too much to talk about, but here is a little run through of the pages. This one's my favourite. On the topic of Halloween drawings, this was an entry for Equestria Exploration's Halloween contest, which was to design the Lovecraftian inspired creature that Daring Do, there she is right there, encounters around the sort of borders or forgotten lands beyond Equestria. And I went with this octopus, lumpy eel, slightly pony unicorn inspired creature, essentially a blend of different creatures that freak me out. This creature is blind, kind of inspired by the warden from Minecraft. I think it's very fascinating how the most threatening, arguably most threatening mob is blind. So this creature will rely on hearing to find Daring Do, also probably how she escaped. And the offspring come out of this little pumpkin shape. You know how spiders explode when they reproduce? I imagine that happened with this creature. Terrifying stuff. Colour palette is also inspired by head crabs from, are they from Half-Life or Team Fortress 2? I was terrified of those when I was younger, but now that they're kind of funny. They look like little burnt chicken nuggets. This is my Bonfire Night and Remembrance Day piece from last year. Here is Lady Marianne with the British flag in a field of poppies, accompanied with some fireworks. I didn't have time to do 2 separate pieces for the 2 separate holidays, so I did blend them in one, but I really like how this has turned out, and it's probably one of my favourites in my entire sketchbook. As you can see, I went with this more fluid style of watercolour. Rather than manually painting the colours in each segment, I sort of let the colours blend themselves and not really worrying about too much where they ended up, and it turned out really nice. Adjacent is Gangle from the Amazing Digital Circus. Absolutely love that show so far. And I think Gangle is one of my favourites. She's very Fluttershy coded, so of course I will be very attached to her. Similarly, here is Pomni from the Amazing Digital Circus. I believe the rest of these pieces should all be fluid watercolour with fine liner outlines. Here is a piece for Children in Need Day, which was on November 17th last year. This is my character Magenta, who is, firstly and foremostly, I picked her because she was a child. She is a child Lucy of my children in need, but also because of her very colourful palette, which works really nicely with the colourful spots associated with Pudsey Bear. She's also wearing the little Pudsey bandage as well. Here's another watercolour drawing. This is My Pony Sona Anaphora with Spyros LP's character. Here are some thumbnail sketches for a Christmas card or holiday card, Yule, Christmas, Sol Invictus card design. Every year I sort of do my own Christmas card design just to sort of decorate my house with. And this year I went with my characters Lola and Naya. So the first one is sort of them as children, sort of asleep on the night of Christmas Eve or the dawn of Christmas Day. This one's more Yule oriented as opposed to Christmas, since Naya is pagan. I'm technically pagan, though I grew up celebrating Christmas. I'm a pantheist, but I grew up celebrating the commercialised Christmas, so technically I celebrate both. And Lola's agnostic, so she's sort of joining in the festivities with her friend. I actually ended up doing 2 cards this year, this one following this design. I wasn't really that fond of my colour choices, and the snow globe composition doesn't technically make sense with the cropping, but I like how the watercolour blended and it looks really nice with the glitter for the sort of snow globe effect. And here is my official design I went with for the second design. I decided to abolish the snow globe shape as it didn't really make much sense with the cropping, and I really like how it turned out, especially with how the colours have blended. There's another piece for the Merlin anniversary. This is for the 11-year anniversary, which was in 2023. And here is Lady Morgana, sort of with a sword, possibly Excalibur, and sort of integrated the text with her magic. Was a bit more ambitious with the fluidity of this piece. At the end I have some very experimental stuff. So these are from my friend Whitehawk does little Blues Clues skits, and these are all the drawings from those skits. I also have a lot of character design stuff here. Here is Breaksley, which is a sort of redesign of my first ever persona from when I was 5 years old. Got another trial of the Diamond of the Day piece from last year here. Here is a quick observational drawing of my cat when she was loafing. More character design sheets for my OC lore. These are some of Flair's childhood friends. Just miscellaneous sketches, more Whitehawk Blues Clues sketches, some spare sketches. That was from a Christmas card design last year that didn't make the cut. More Paw Patrol drawings up here, watercolour. Is this the Titanic or the Britannic? Might be the Olympic, I'm not sure. And here is another experimental ink and wash piece of my OC Lainey. I'm not really sure how I achieved it staying within the lines within this piece, as it was very difficult to achieve with others. Also really love how these fast-paced drawings of Jen and Marianne turned out. And that is about everything from my 2022 to 23 sketchbook. Obviously a lot of it was from 2022, whereas 23 I sort of focused more on my digital work as opposed to my traditional, but I did sort of return to it in the end of the year to sort of finish things up. Let me know your favourite drawing, and as always I hope these videos continue to inspire. Thank you for watching.